Hello and welcome to Mini-Age Painting. Today, I want to share with you the start of my journey building and painting my way through Squidmar's Champions of Sona. I backed this Kickstarter during its original launch, as I have been a massive fan of his channel for a long time. They are one of the main inspirations for starting my own channel. Without further ado, let's jump into this. This video will focus on unboxing, building, and checking the quality of the sculptures in the line of elves they have created. Let's start with Shiri. First, out of the box, I am impressed by the packaging of the pieces. Each is securely packaged with this stringy paper, and the parts are in plastic bags. Shiri is cast by Mindwork Studios. Let's see how good they are. Right away, the model is pretty free of mold lines, which is nice to see. A couple here and there are okay, but this is way less than I was expecting. There are some casting artifacts left behind in some of the slots, but these are easy to clip away. Now that I have seen and gotten a rough idea of how this model is assembled, let's start gluing stuff together. I'm going to start by gluing her torso to the legs. This seems like the easiest starting point. One thing that I do take issue with is the lack of a building guide. While there aren't too many parts in each of these kits, there are some issues that will come up later. Either way, I then set about gluing the head and arms to the body. Cleaning up parts as I go, I tried dry fitting the body into the base of the model. I realized I would need to clean up a bit more of the blob left behind in this hole before I could get a nice snug fit. So I did just that, and then set about gluing the smoke to the rock. Multiple test fits later led me to realize that I had glued her arm wrongly to the body, as it was not lining up well with the smoke. This is likely an issue with the medium, as individual part shrinkage is a problem I face relatively often with 3D printing. I had to take some goof off and undo the bond between the arm and the body in order to reposition it into a position that allowed the smoke to connect. This did, however, leave a bit of a gap on the arm that I will have to go back over with some milliput later. That's not the end of the world though, and the model does look fantastic. In the end, I glued the staff and the last rock that ended up fitting on the end of her cloak. I ended up having a bit of trouble finding where to put this thing because it seemed like it was supposed to go where another rock ended up. This is part of the reason why instruction books are really nice to have. Let's move on to Tharkos, floating elf prince boy with a sword. Right away, I noticed that the material was different from the last model, possibly from a different company that did not include a card. Taking a look at the model, the quality is superb. Very few mold lines that were fairly easy to scrape away. The material felt really nice and really smooth. After cleaning the pieces, I set about gluing them together. I first test fitted the base together to get a look at what goes where, before starting to glue the leg onto the waist. I then moved to the torso and glued the arm onto his shoulder. I did this because the blade that he is supposed to hold is also attached to the legs. Gluing the torso down, I had a bit of difficulty arranging the body to a point where the wrist was attaching nicely to the sword. I am sure that the shoulder point is flush, but getting it to this point meant that I would need to put a bit of milliput to make sure the torso connects to the waist. I'll cross that bridge later. For now, I glued the other arm down and moved on to the head. This is where I had the most issue with the model. The head just didn't want to sit in a natural position for me. The key, or holes that you put into the model like this, didn't match up. The hole in the neck was far too big for the key on the head to fit in, and the outer neck didn't line up with the face in a convincing way. It took a while of fiddling and shifting before I ended up getting the head to look somewhat decent, without having a massive gap on either side of his face. I am not going to glue the robes to the base just yet. Some blue tack will help keep him stable though. Last, but certainly not least, we have Karanti and her Wolverine bear thing, Ryushi. I hope I'm getting these names right. They seem to be molded by the same company as Thrakos, as there is no card here. Right away, I noticed that there are a few casting blocks, which is okay in my book. However, I set right about to clean up these parts so I can build her up. Ryushi was the first thing I wanted to build, as he looked really cool. He even fit together extremely nicely. No issues whatsoever with him. However, since his feet were molded into the base, I did have to glue him on there. If it were my choice, I would have opted for having him separate to make painting easier, but this isn't the end of the world. Moving to Karanti, I first glued the cloak to her backside, then the tassels to her front. This model went together fairly easily after that, no worrying about multiple things connecting to a single piece. Next, I glued on the pelt that fits over her back, after realizing that it doesn't belong on Ryushi. Another thing that a build guide would have been nice for. I then glued on the arm that touches Ryushi and the head. After that, it was just a matter of gluing the final arm on and then fitting the glaive. Altogether, this was the easiest of the three to build. The simplicity of her design leads to a very nice and imposing figure. With that, we have the 3 elves included in the Kickstarter. If I had to rank these for ease of build, I would give Karanti and Ryushi a 9 out of 10. They were the easiest and most straightforward of all of them. I would give Thrakos a 7 out of 10, because there was some difficulty with the head and wrist that attached to the sword. Finally, I give Shirei a 4 out of 10. There were a few parts that I had to struggle with, and some parts I didn't understand where to put. Design-wise, I would give Shirei an 8 out of 10, because she just looks awesome. I'm a sucker for magic, and that smoke is really doing it for me. Thrakos, I would give a 6 out of 10. Great model with lots of really nice details, and the pose is nice and unique, but the head just takes so much of it away from me that it is rather annoying. That leaves Karanti with a solid 7 out of 10. I love the simple pose and the protective stance of Ryushi, and she just looks awesome. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. I recently got in contact with another sculptor to continue my creator collaboration series, so look out for that video soon. I have a Discord server for the channel that you can find in the comments if you'd like to join. Until next time, I've been Mini Itch Painting, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.